Good morning. Welcome to day 6 of our 7-day meditation support class, and I'm happy to be with you all again this morning. It's been a very powerful week of meditating together. We've done a lot of different types of meditations, and we've talked a little bit about, um, all the different styles and how they can be incorporated together and how we can use them to develop our own unique style of meditating. So, again, my goal for this week with you is to really introduce you to, a little bit of each style so that you can pick and choose the parts that work for you, and you can always mix it up. Remember, meditation is not necessarily one specific type of thing. Hopefully, what one of the big takeaways from this class for you would be to adopt a more contemplative lifestyle, right? So, as we develop our awareness, which is one of the basic principles of meditation, we start to become aware of our thoughts, feelings, and sensations throughout the day. We start to become more tuned in to what's happening in the present moment, how we're feeling in the present moment, and then immediately going into that non-judgment state. And so as we develop our practice, these three principles, awareness, non-judgment, and equanimity, start to become a working part of who we are. And that's the goal, is to be more aware, is to be more non-judgmental, so we can have compassion for ourselves and others, and to be in equanimity, to be at peace and centered and grounded with whatever, there's always something happening, change. We can't control other people's behavior, we can't control other people's choices, what they want, what they don't want, how they choose to show up. And so, but we can have sovereignty over our own emotions and our own ability to respond in ways that are peaceful and loving and responsible for our own well-being. So as we cultivate these three basic principles in any style of meditation, whether it's through mindfulness meditation or vipassana or chakra balancing or manifesting abundance or doing inner child work with your meditation practice, whichever one really resonated for you, again, I invite you to just play with the styles and mix them up. As long as we are, cultivating our practice, we're developing these attributes. We're developing them, and feeling more balanced and feeling more centered in our everyday life. And this is the key. There's so many things that we perhaps encounter, illness and accidents and, unfortunate circumstances that might feel like they're out of your control. And, unfortunately, that is part of the human experience. And it doesn't have to take away your peace. It doesn't have to take away your own ability to feel like you have some direction over your own health, mental health, emotional health, and physical health. Having a meditation practice gives us a sense of power, and it also gives us the ability to empower ourselves in any one of those situations. If ever we feel like we are struggling or going through something very difficult, we always have the power to meditate ourselves into wellness, into centeredness, and into acceptance. Today, I'd like to talk about intuition. Okay, so we've chatted a lot about the subconscious mind and the cellular memory and using meditation in our conscious state to program the subconscious. We've talked about theta wave meditation, which happens just before you drift off to sleep, or can happen before you drift off to sleep. And so what is intuition, right? Intuition, and again, this is my humble opinion as a facilitator, intuition is your inner knowing. Right? It's just knowing something, not because of any particular reason, right? Oftentimes, intuition doesn't feel reasonable, doesn't feel like it's rooted in anything that makes sense or logical or so on. It's just a spontaneous knowing, right? And oftentimes it can be called a gut feeling, right? And if you do this chakra balancing meditation, the solar plexus area, when it's very out of balance, you can start to doubt and question your gut and the sensations that come up from your gut, which is essentially your intuition. Intuition is also associated with the third eye, which is our ability to see beyond our own perceptions, our own biases, our own wounds, and just to see things as they are. So intuition, we're going to refer to it, we're going to today focus on it just as a spontaneous knowing. We always know. right? There is that spontaneous knowing, just like there is that inner peace that's at the core of each one of us, that's unchanging. And then there are, moments that come along. The ego will chime in and say, that's not true, or that can't be, or that's not possible, or you can't have that, or, the doubt will start to creep in. Okay. And so this is normal as we are conditioned to lean into our reasoning minds and use our reasoning minds to form judgments and analysis based on past experience. We oftentimes will drown out the voice of our intuition. We will quell, whatever inner knowing that we might feel strongly, and say, that's not, that can't be right, that can't be right, right? Because we want our lives to make sense. Human beings, we need our lives to make sense, because this creates some sense of safety and stability and security, right? And in fact, when we learn how to really let go and trust and surrender, we often find that our lives don't make sense, but we feel better, right? We feel good. We feel like we're in some kind of flow, right? And this is, very talked about, very celebrated state, a way of living, especially in spiritual community, is to learn how to live in the flow. In fact, I teach an entire 16-week program on how to live in the flow. So again, it's just by learning to access our intuitive guidance, which is different than the subconscious. The subconscious is your energy system, right? It's your operating, the operating system that manifests 90% of your tangible results in life, your experiences in life. So this is your own field of energy. The intuition is something that emerges spontaneously within this field of energy, based on your connection to your higher self. When I say higher self, what I mean is the you that isn't afraid. Okay. Higher self is the you that lives in truth, in knowingness, in absolute reality, in peace. Okay. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this week, my spiritual practices are rooted in Eastern tradition. So I am a non dual teacher. I believe that there is no such thing as this is causing that we are all sort of one expression of the same consciousness. And so this is the basis of everything that I teach. And so when we talk about intuition, there really is only one universal intelligence. There is a knowingness that lives in the universe that we can all tap into as we start to work through our own fears, deconstructing, which is also deconstructing our own ego. So ego is a fear-based consciousness. And when you have an intuition about something, the first thing that happens is the ego will chime in, as I mentioned earlier, and say, that can't be right, or this isn't happening, or that's not possible, or this, I must be crazy, right? So I really invite you to have compassion for this aspect of yourself, to have compassion for the ego, because the ego is there to keep us safe, right? Our fears are in place to keep us safe. If we go back to childhood, our parents said, don't do this because this will happen, right? Or make sure you do that, or be careful. We've heard that our entire lives, because our parents were essentially trying to keep us safe. And so we learn to be afraid and to be overly cautious and to doubt our own inner knowing without even realizing. We don't realize we doubt our own inner knowing, because we're trying to stay safe. We're trying to create some element of security and stability in our lives. So the intuition is really, is always present, and it's accessible as we learn to work through our fears, as we learn to put those down, we learn to listen a little deeper, beyond the voice of the reasoning mind, beyond our own limiting beliefs, about who we are, what we can have, what we, those things that we learned in childhood, right? So the belief system will actually influence every cell in the body. So it's important, as you develop your meditation style, to really challenge those beliefs, especially as you're learning to listen to your intuition. If you have an innate sense of knowing, and there's a thought that creeps in, or a belief that creeps in, that wants to derail your trajectory of following your intuition, it's very important to learn to discern that, and to be able to say, I hear you and I understand, and I have compassion for this part of me that's trying to keep me safe, and I'm going to cultivate my intuitive guidance and follow my inner knowing, even though it doesn't make sense, right? And this can be, as I said, very challenging, maybe even a little scary at first, but my advice would be to start small. If you're gonna today, we're in our practice, we're gonna start to ask questions. Okay, we're gonna ask ourselves questions, and then we're gonna create deep listening about who we are, why we're here, what the next right step is in any given situation. Learning to ask questions when you're in a deep meditative state, and just listening for the answer, trusting that the first response is always the correct one. Always. We always know. Just like we always have peace within us. Just like our nature is to be loving, right? That's what feels good. Notice how it feels better to be loving than it does to be, unloving or resentful or bitter, right? It feels better because we're aligning with our essential nature. So when we align with our nature, it feels good. It feels expansive, right? When the fear creeps in, it doesn't feel good. It feels like the cells are contracting. It feels like we're limiting ourselves. It feels like we're trapping ourselves in a way of operating. And so now we know we're not in alignment. We know that fear is not in alignment with who we are. Sometimes when we have a lot of fear over the years, we can condition ourselves to get used to it, to become complacent with fear. And so this is, we start to, and this has other consequences in our lives, anxiety, depression, suppressed emotions, an unwillingness to take positive actions, maybe even a withdrawal from society, or self-isolation, things like that. Okay. So it's very important as we are developing our meditation practice to remember that love and peace and spontaneous knowing, these are things that are natural for us as spiritual beings having a human experience. This is part of our essence. Okay. And so to be able to tap into these gifts is magical, and it's your birthright. It's your birthright to be able to live in this way, and to be able to know and trust your knowingness. And the more you trust your knowingness, the stronger it becomes. It's like any other muscle, right? The more we exercise and develop this muscle, this intuitive muscle, the stronger it becomes. Intuition can be different, can show up differently for us. It can show up in, sometimes you hear messages or words or phrases, and sometimes you see images. Sometimes you see colors or textures, or you feel things. I'm a feeler. I can sense emotions. I can sense images. I can sense memories, in other people when I'm working with them, especially in a one-on-one environment. And so it can be different for everyone, right? Sometimes you can't even really quantify it. It's just a little nudge, internal nudge. It says this, go with this one. So, we're gonna start with a yes or the no. That is the easiest way to train ourselves to learn to listen to our intuition. Is this a yes or is it a no? There are different things that we can do as well to test our knowingness. There's muscle testing, which is kinesiology. You can do the O-ring test, and you can YouTube that and find long, elaborate instructional videos on how to muscle test. You can also use a pendulum to check in. Again, the pendulum is not a separate thing. It's not separate from you. It's your higher self communicating, using this tool to communicate, to verify your own intuition, what you already know. Okay, so there's different tools we can use for intuition, but I'm a firm believer, not but and I'm a firm believer that we have already everything in place to be able to rely on our own intuitive guidance, our own knowingness, and lean into that ever so gently, for little things. Maybe you're driving through the parking lot of a grocery store, and you have this innate sense that there's going to be an open space on your left, and you trust that, and you go, and there's an open space on your left, and boom, your intuition guided you, right? So we're going to start with little things that are accessible, so that you can start to develop confidence in this area. Once you start to develop confidence in this area, you start to feel into your own sense of what feels like a yes in your body, what feels like a no, where do you feel it in your body, and how to proceed. And then we can start to apply it to the bigger life questions, like, what is my purpose, and what is my what is the best course of action? Should I this or should I that, right? We always know. And there's, of course, certain things that we can do in life to verify our knowingness, as I mentioned. But deep down inside, the ideal scenario is to really learn to trust our intuition. And we can only fully do that once we learn to bypass our fears and our conditioning and our reasoning mind, go beyond the voice of our parents and our society and whatever it is that our peers are telling us, and really sit with our own unique voice, inner voice, that is always guiding us on the trajectory to our most fulfilled life. I firmly believe, as we go into our meditation here in one more second, that if we live a life that is directed by our higher selves, by our intuition, this is the path to true fulfillment. Okay. So, with that said, let's meditate. We'll close our eyes. Take a deep diaphragmatic breath. Again, it's very important to be fully relaxed, especially if we're going to listen to our intuitive guidance. This goes beyond tuning into physical sensations and emotions and thought patterns. Now we're going deeper into our essential being, feeling into spontaneous knowing, information that just comes through our higher selves and presents itself to us as a choice in each moment. As always, you can put your hand on your belly to help yourself. Breathe in, belly out. Exhale, let the belly drop naturally. Good. We're going to relax the muscles in our body, starting with the crown of our heads. Again, you can bring in the colors if that was beneficial for you. We did that on the other day with the chakra balancing. White is the crown. Relax the muscles in the top of your head. Relax the muscles across your forehead. Purple is the third eye. Relax the muscles in your jaw and throat and neck. Blue is the throat chakra. Relax the muscles in your shoulders and arms. Let your hands rest wherever they feel most comfortable. Relax the muscles in your chest and upper back. Green is the color of the heart chakra. Relax the muscles in your belly. Keeping your belly soft as you breathe in and out. Yellow is the color of the solar plexus. Relax the muscles across your hips, lower back, all the way down to the base of your spine. Orange is the color of the sacral area, reproductive area. And red is the color of the root. Relax the muscles all the way across the top of your legs into your feet. Again, if your feet are touching the ground, or perhaps you're being held up by another surface, a bed or a couch or a chair, just relax and connect with the surface that's supporting you, sinking in a little deeper on the inhale of your deep into your belly, allowing your body to fully relax and open. For some of us, it's beneficial to sit with our palms up as we're receiving information. So if that feels more comfortable to you, please do so. Good. Beautiful. Notice if there's any thoughts rolling in, any thoughts that are distracting you, any sounds that are happening outside of you. It's very important to be able to meditate regardless of what's going on around us. This is life, right? So we learn to be centered and calm and connected to our inner life in any situation. Try not to run away with your thoughts. They're thoughts of the past or the future. Peace is not available in either one of those paradigms, only in the present moment. Intuition is not available in the past or the future, only in the present moment. Bring your focus to your solar plexus now, the gut area. This is helpful as we breathe and we trust that we're developing a relationship with this sense, this inner knowing. Notice if there's any emotions present, any feelings of fear or frustration or resentment or bitterness. Perhaps there is a part of you that is already in disbelief that you can be intuitive, that you can trust your inner knowing for direct guidance, reliable information that will serve your highest and best good. So many of us are conditioned to feel like we're on our own. Right? We are completely left to our own devices to make our own choices. And intuition is you, but it's different than the abandoned version, the wounded version. It is the connected version, supported by spirit, by universe, by nature. These are all synonyms of each other. So although the intuition is coming through you, you are not alone. You are connected to all of creation as you feel into universal intelligence and discern the choices that feel good to you, the ones that serve the vision of your life, that serve your highest and best good. Notice if there's any physical discomfort, any pain in your body. You want to bring awareness to that. Simply observe, acknowledge it. Perhaps there is information there for you. Intuition can come at any moment to help guide us in any particular circumstance, whether it's for self-healing or healing others or helping others or making life choices. It is always there to show us the most fulfilling path available. Good. Take another deep diaphragmatic breath. There are two questions that I like to work with when it comes to developing our intuition, and that is, who am I and why am I here? These two questions are the basis of existence. They're what drive behavior, choices, what we feel drawn to, how we establish our identity in the world. So take another deep diaphragmatic breath here and ask yourself, either out loud or quietly with me, who am I? And listen. First response is always the correct one. It can be a vision, it can be a sound, a phrase, just a knowingness. Perhaps it's just one word. Who am I? Good. Just trust it, even if it doesn't make any sense. Just trust it. Why am I here? This is the question that also drives human behavior. We spend our lives searching for our purpose. What is it that we're here to do? How are we here to share it? Who am I? And why am I here? Your higher self knows the answer to both of these questions. Listen. Perhaps who you are is love, and why you're here is to share it. Perhaps who you are is a guide, and why you're here is to lead others. Perhaps who you are is a builder, and why you're here is to create things. It doesn't have to be anything specific, although it can be. It's very important as we listen that we allow the imagery, all of the information that wants to download through you, present itself through you. Give it space. Give it freedom. Give it expression. Welcome it into your mind and heart. Receive. Take another deep diaphragmatic breath here. And I will leave the next question to you. Pick any one thing that can be answered in a yes or a no. Keep it simple so we can really develop this muscle. And sit with the question. Take a moment to do that now. It's instant. Remember, the first response is always the correct one. So trust that. You can keep going and ask another question. Perhaps there is a scenario in your life that you're struggling with, that you want guidance on, or a relationship issue. Give yourself the space and the breath and the awareness and the non-judgment to be equanimous with the knowingness that's already within you. You already know the answer. It's already there. As we relax and allow ourselves to receive information without judgment, we can hear the truth of any scenario. We can hear this spontaneous information known as intuition emerge and confirm our own answers by trusting ourselves. Maybe it's time to leave that relationship, or maybe it's time to apply for that job, or maybe it's time to start that new regimen, or maybe it's time to quit something or start something, or be more or less of whatever it is that is either serving or not serving your life. Deep down in our hearts, we always know. Good. Take a deep diaphragmatic breath here. And take a moment to thank your higher self, to thank your own intuitive guidance for speaking directly with you today, for being so clear, for coming through. Acknowledge yourself for listening, receiving, and trusting. And when you're ready, you can rub your hands or arms on top of your legs. And you can gently make your way back to the present moment and open your eyes. Welcome back. Thank you for joining me today. I hope your intuition was clear and gentle and accessible. I hope that this practice was valuable as far as giving you some mechanics in terms of how to trust your intuition and how to develop it. Please feel free to leave a comment and keep watching it, keep practicing, trusting your intuitive guidance. If you asked for any guidance throughout the day, just again, starting small with little sort of senses of, okay, this or that, just following that and allowing that muscle to develop is the best course of action. And the more we trust our intuition, the louder it becomes. Okay, not just when we meditate, but throughout the day. Remember, I said at the beginning of this week that the way we do life is the way we meditate. The way we meditate is the way we do life. And so, as you learn to cultivate your intuition in your meditation practice, it will start to be more clear, more loud, more accessible to you throughout the day as you live your life. Okay. Have a beautiful rest of the day. I will see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Pacific for our final day, day 7 of our 7-day meditation support class. Tomorrow we will be doing metta meditation, cultivating loving kindness for ourselves and for all beings everywhere, dedicating our practice to the upliftment of the consciousness of the world. Have a beautiful rest of the day. See you tomorrow.